Hello, everybody. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna talk about something that it's kind of hard to talk about. I think it should be said. Before we get started. Hopefully, I don't have to set myself as someone will start. I guess. So yeah, for me as a conservative, I think it's hard for us to deal with homosexuality and bisexuality, and really most of the LGBT community as a large, because for us, self-reliance is a huge cultural dynamic of our ethos, I guess. And so, for us, the idea of self-identity or like group identity, this idea of us being like whites only and stuff like that, that's not part of our ethos. So our ethos is, have you assimilated into a grander culture or have you not? And that's not that the left doesn't want assimilation. Their form of assimilation is assimilation through difference. They want to have the oppositional differences, which isn't necessarily bad. And the right's not against that. There seems to be this dichotomy that is developed in which the left believes the right wants to stop the left from being themselves, and the right believes the left wants the right to destroy their unity of identity. So the right wants the left to assimilate their sense of difference and opposition and isolation back, to come back to them, in a sense. The left wants to go their own way, to figure out their own path in life, but also to redefine what life is. That's why there's this constant urge to redefine what life is, and they're on the left. And a lot of them are on the left. There are people in the LGBT community who are conservative. Um, Heck, people like Dave Rubin are notable people who have switched from left to right even. So there is this idea that you don't have to be liberal or progressive to be homosexual or bisexual or transsexual or, whatever you want to be. Why is that? What is really going on? And I don't think we can get to that without having a personal assessment of our own experiences, to have a sense of quantitative information, have evidence of it for us to build a sense of quantitative and qualitative information from. So I'm going to talk about my experiences as a conservative with homosexuality and bisexuality. First, let's define our terms. As always, homosexuality is of or related to, characterized by a tendency to direct sexual desire towards another of the same sex. It can also be of or relating to or involving sexual activity between persons of the same sex. Then you also have bisexual, which is possessing characters of both sexes, especially both male and female reproductive structures, hermaphroditic. Of, relating to or characterized by sexual and romantic attraction to both men and women. Of or relating to involving both sexes. So, I was really young when I knew that my parents wanted a girl, and I wouldn't say that molded my life, but it did preface a lot of my behavior. Like, maybe this is just natural, that I'm effeminate and have characteristics that at times aren't very masculine. As a child, I really struggled to identify myself with my older brothers and the boys around me. So yeah, I roughed and tumbled a little bit, but there's an experience that was traumatic to me that kind of made me very oppositional to aggression and displaying my aggression in third grade. And I stopped trying to fight because I felt like if I fight the wrong instance, I could hurt people. So that really emphasized that kind of effeminacy in me. That plus the fact that as an African American, I did not understand racial, really I didn't understand race at the time. And so my introduction to race was, you're too light-skinned, you're not this, you don't fit that, you're not part of this, you're not part of that. And that really shook me a lot and threw me for a loop. But it also forced me in a lot of ways to kind of develop an extra shield. You tell yourself to not be weak a lot, you tell yourself to hold things in a lot, you tell yourself in a lot of ways to be colder, more stoic. I would say that that's why I took the stoicism so well through most of my life, because it was easier to hold things in. And oddly enough, that was when I was most against the idea of being conservative, the idea of being assimilated into a larger whole, or even giving myself into something like the church or something like God, seemed repulsive to me. So I spent a lot of my childhood really struggling with that idea, being called a faggot, being called, a freak or a nerd, or, a lot of things. And I would say that's why I still have a lot of bitterness in me, why I get angry still. Um, I'd say that a lot of my worst nature towards my own fellow man comes from the animosity and the frustration that I had developed. And it hurt a lot. So I'd say I was probably about 10 when I first, really started to give it thought. Like, is it easier for me to be this way or be that way? And I'll get into more information of that. For example, I started being bullied a lot in school. Um, I found that when it came to my relationship with the men that I meet or the boys that I meet in school, it was always great in the sense that I could figure out a way to at least get along with them. At least if I mimic things and get along with the general path. When it came to identifying with the women around me, or at least talking to girls, I always found that really hard, and I always found it very full of conflict. It's not so much that I had bad blood between them, or like that I would start shit, or that they would start shit. It's just that I didn't understand social cues and social differences between men and women, I guess, in the sense that I would talk to them like guys, and I'd try to treat them like I treated my guy friends, but that would usually make them very like, what the fuck, dude? And I found that when it came to liking girls, that was very painful. Um, Trying to tell a girl that you liked her, or that you had a sense of familiarity with her, always had a sense of negativity or bullying that came behind it, whether from the group of girls or from the group of guys that liked the girl. And so I learned not to trust women at a very young age, and not to make friends with women. At least you're friends with women, but you don't like them. You can like your guy friends, but you can't like your girlfriends, or else that will cause conflict. So I developed very close, intimate bonds with men all the time. With women, it was only really with my female family members. So while I could understand this idea that women want male friends because they want this idea of having brothers, to me, that means something completely different. Because of my experiences with only having female family members be my close relationships and intimate relationships, in the sense that I can actually feel comfortable, like, confide in them, like seeking intimacy with them through hugs and stuff like that, and telling them how I feel. I couldn't do that with the women that I met outside of the family. But I could with the men that I met outside of the family. We could bond over all kinds of things. Though that didn't mean that I could bond with every guy, so there was this kind of sense that I couldn't even trust my own gender. Um, that made it really hard for me, struggling with this idea that I can't be accepted by anybody. Really was hard for me. And the things that I was going through as a child really pushed me onto a negative train of thought. So I never really got to explore a lot of that aspect in full. Instead, I was always kind of teetering the line. I'd say when I was 10, that's when I first started having feelings like homosexuality, because in the frustration of lacking close female intimacy, like in the sense of being able to actually talk to girls, tell a girl I like her, and stuff like that, I found it easier to feel like I can confide those feelings and seek that kind of intimacy with the male members of my tribe, in a sense. And so I began to think about the idea of, like, could I hug my guy friends? Could I cry with them? Could I tell them how I feel and that I care about them a lot and don't want them to pick on me and leave me? Maybe I could. And yeah, I can. And oftentimes they're very receptive. The girls push me away. So my whole life, there is always a temptation to rely on my desire to only have that security of male camaraderie and male intimacy. I'd say that I was 14 when I was introduced to homosexuality in full. When I spent a lot of time in San Francisco, I used to visit some of the bars and just random places, and I actually talked to people who were practicing homosexuals. And at times I would see a sense of freedom to them, but other times I sensed this sense of pain, isolation, and a sense of trying to just get by that kind of frustrated me. Plus, the fact that I was young, but also that they were trying to get with me at times, or that they would be attracted to me, threw me off because I still had a lot of issues, me myself still being a virgin at the time, um, in both heterosexual and homosexual relationships. I found that it was very uncomfortable for me being very, well, in a sense, asexual, in that I did not feel close or comfortable being intimate with anybody or any gender. And so sexual intimacy with any gender was very hard for me. I'd say that the reason why I never made a forte into homosexuality was because of how forward some of the advances of the men around me would be who are comfortable in their sexuality. So I would say that, yeah, a certain sense of homophobia did lead me to reject fully immersing myself with it, but I never actually developed a sense of animosity towards him for it. The closest I could say is developing animosity was for being groped at times. That really upset me, and it really made me feel. It reminded me when I would be held down and beat by a group of people. So in a lot of ways, that was kind of why I developed my homophobia, was because of the bullying that went on, and how to be intimate with men who are dominant over me makes me go back to that place where I'm being held down and beat. So it's hard for me to be around dominant homosexual men. Not in the sense that I can't be their friend. I love hanging out with them. I love hanging out with both dominant and submissive homosexual men. I could be friends with either and a half. But in the sense of me dating, I would have to be with a submissive male, and oftentimes that was not what I was exposed to growing up. So that's why I never indulged in that. And oftentimes, living where I'm at, that's not the kind of me you'll see, because the type of men who are submissive, it's almost to a mocking degree, in the sense that I genuinely can't date a woman if I'm not going to date a woman. Does that make sense? Like, if I'm going to be homosexual, I can't date a homosexual man that is overly aggressive and dominant, or is so submissive and emasculate that they can't help me be more myself, because I'm both masculine and effeminate. And so for me, emasculation means that I'm less of who I am inside, so I can't not be less male. It hurts me to be less male, but it also hurts me to reject the part of me that is sensitive and feminine. Because I know, at least now, I know where that comes from, but at the time I didn't know where it came from. That desire to nurture, the desire to raise a family, desire to, in a sense, suckle and give birth even. And that's kind of where my experiences even with transgenderism comes in. And this is something that most people won't know about me, that I don't really talk about much, but I've only recently started talking about because I've been able to talk to a therapist that I feel comfortable with. So growing up, I started feeling attraction for some of my friends, and not necessarily all of them. Don't freak out, and for God's sakes, most of these people are long gone. Um, Oftentimes, there are people who are equally as isolated, equally as loner as me, but who, like me, we could kind of sharpen each other and push each other further. In a lot of ways, my homosexuality is much like how liberal or left-leaning Christians would take the David and Jonathan story. And for me, that's oftentimes how I begin to look at it, in the sense that it's not so much that I want sexual intimacy with men, but the relationships with men I find build me up and make me stronger than any of the relationships that I've had with women. Um, so yeah, and I mean, growing up too, like that started when I was 14. I'd say 16 is when I was really starting to revisit that idea, because this was past a time when I really just was done. I was really depressed. And honestly, I was envious because it was easier, and I can really note it too, that it was easier for a lot of the women in my life, or the women that I meet, to form relationships and to have the relationships with men that I couldn't have, but also have the relationships with each other that I didn't have. So, again, there's that idea that to me, there is so much danger and risk to women that it's better not to be involved with them. Now, I went against this in a lot of ways because I started dating women, and that didn't stop the fact that I still had very close relationships with my men friends, in the sense that I would try to build really strong familial bonds with men around me. So, I mean, I got to explore both options, luckily, but most people don't, and I can see very well how, if I had not started dating certain people, I would not have been opened up, and I very much would have became likely homosexual for most of my life. So I don't judge people for having attraction to men, to preferring a relationship to men, to not having any attraction towards women. Trust me. Oh, trust me. I'm with you. Oh, I'm with you. For me, what attracts me to women is actually a very fleshly reason. I'm very attracted to the female anatomy. In a Greco-Roman fashion, I think that women anatomically are aesthetically pleasing. In a lot of ways, I am both repulsed by the fact that I have effeminate facial traits, but also greatly both turned on and happy that I have effeminate traits to me, facially and aesthetically. Because to me, I find that the object of beauty is femininity. Um, I think that to be male is not to be ugly in a sense, but to be uh, broken pottery in a sense, to be marred, to be scarred. So I have very fucked up gender roles developments that I had to work through growing up. And the idea of a calling, or or like a or like a Annalise or something, just taking on that identity and cross-dressing and stuff. Those were things that I played around with. I mean, shoot, famously, high school I did cross-dress in a play. And that was something that I did partially for fun, but partially because, hey, I liked seeing myself in a feminine form. So I understand that. I understand why that's so appealing. So when I say that these things are wrong or that they're not right, it's not that I'm saying this from a place of you're disgusting or you're repulsive or that this is, I can't understand how you got this below, you're degraded, you're unredeemable, something like that. And I think that where the Conservative Party goes wrong is that they do not talk about how to reconcile these things and to come away from it in a healthy way, to reconcile these things with what will bring you into lasting life. And I think this is where God has kind of helped me out a lot, even before I came to Him. Because I struggled with homosexuality even when I was in the relationship that really brought me closer to God. It should have brought me even closer to God had I dealt with these things fully and understood that I needed to deal with these things fully instead of suppressing them. Um, so even, I would say, as of 3 years ago, I'm still struggling with that. And sometimes still, in the face of being single for the last 3 years, I still sometimes flirt around with the idea like, maybe I should have said a couple to guy. Just date around. I'm not gonna have sex with them. So again, it's not like there isn't struggle. There is struggle. Holy crap, there's a huge struggle. But this is where the cups comes from and where I think the hypocrisy comes from on both sides. There's often this gripe that comes out, oh, you guys harp on about homosexuality, but what about cheating and adultery and stuff like that? And this is ultimately why I ended up fully renouncing that side of me and learning to reconcile it into my full self. Is that I had to come to the conclusion that adultery is adultery. See, I understand that people may not think that they want to have children, but to me, I know that I do. So I can't, this may not be advice for people like that. I'm not trying to give advice, really. Really, what I'm trying to say is from my experience, coming from the angle of somebody who wanted to have children or to adopt children, I wanted to model good relationship patterns that were denied to me in my family. So what happened between my parents, I wanted to prevent in order to model to a child. Now, I thought that there would be an ease to having a male partner, and oftentimes when I was younger, I would think about these kind of dynamics. Would be easier to have a male, like a husband or a wife, these kind of things. Um, I realized that for me, I would really like to model the husband-wife pattern with a female partner. That makes it hard for me because I don't trust women. So a lot of the women I date, I actually am completely okay not being sexually intimate with them because I don't trust them in that way. I'm not attracted to them intimately like that. I can be, I am at times, but in terms of the long-lasting relationship, the intimacy bonding, the cortisone kind of bonding that you get, I don't get that. It's hard because there's too many aspects that reflect past trauma that makes it so I push away. Um, but ultimately, that really kind of made me have to look inside and say, well, I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. I want to model these good behaviors. But does that mean that I have to not know what my wife is like? So maybe these effeminate traits are for me to be better reconciled with a wife, to actually know what it's like to be feminine and have to work in that kind of environment. Moreover, I started to realize that even when I was trying to act on my homosexual urges, oftentimes it couldn't lead to sex because of, again, the dominance issue and the trauma issue. This the fact that I couldn't get too comfortable to even be able to get past the point of like groping and touching and stuff like that. It just caused too much issues. Um, so I found that in terms of stating my sexual need and desires, didn't solve my problem to be homosexual either, or bisexual at this point. And so, regardless, I wasn't indulging in the flesh still. I wasn't getting the satisfaction I desired from either gender. So, it made it easier for me to, again, kind of revisit this idea of what is it that I really want? Do I want a relationship and sex, or do I want a family? And I realized, I want a family more than anything. So, that's when I started becoming celibate. And I realized, celibacy and certain types of political worldviews don't mix. So a lot of women were, again, off the table. Most men, oddly enough, were off the table. Um, yeah, if you don't want to have sex, that's a huge thing with people. And if you don't want to have sex for a long period of time, that doesn't work with a lot of people. It didn't work with me even when you were trying to me. I had to learn how to be celibate again. Once I was actually sexually active, I was kind of a little man whore. So again, not throwing stones. These things are unhealthy habits that we adopt in order to cope with the stress and the traumas that we went through before in our lives, and we have to learn to give them up and to reconcile them to ourselves. And so I find that, by the time that I was 23, 24, I definitely needed to reconcile the stuff into myself. And in the last few years, I have. I've really come to terms with it. Especially as my closest companions have had to deal with this, and it's become a very personal thing in my life to deal with these kind of things. So when I think about it, The issue with me and homosexuality as a conservative isn't that homosexuality is wrong or da 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 da. I think that it's wrong in terms of biblically and stuff like that, and that it's not what God wants for you. But if you don't believe in God, then whatever. I'm not going to force you to believe something you don't believe in. I'm not going to force you to act on something that you don't believe in. You honor God with your life if you believe in God and you love God with all your heart. That's why you don't cheat. And that's where I'm coming from, is that to me, homosexuality is as wrong as heterosexuality is in this culture. The fact that we have sex out of wedlock is bad for us. And the fact that we have sex without the desire for a wedlock is bad for us. And it leads into all these other sins that are wrong. This is why I'm against abortion. Not because I believe that people who are in accidents or have emergency situations or horrible situations and circumstances should be forced to suffer. No. If anything, I want loopholes for them to be able to be helped as quickly and efficiently as possible and to be helped more than just having their baby killed, but to be removed from the situation that's actually oppressing them. For the majority of people who just want sexual liberation and the ability to do whatever the fuck they want and treat this thing as if it's a parasite or an organ to donate, then I want them to treat it as if it's an organ to donate and that they're committing infanticide to donate this organ. That's it. I want them not to say that this baby is not a human. I want them to admit that this baby is biologically and will be human, and that this is infanticide, and that to them, whether this needs to be declared just like how organ donations are declared on your driver's license, and thus they're able to give an organ donation willy-nilly when they think it's suited out of your corpse when you die. Do the same thing with an abortion. Okay, she says here that she's completely okay with the baby being aborted and donated to medical science. Okay, we see that there's a medical situation or that you're in here. Well, boom, let's go with it. Anybody else who hasn't gone through that process, I think should have a psychiatrist to talk to because they're getting rid of a life and it's something that might affect them. Regardless of what decision they make, I think that they should talk to somebody. And I think that the state should try to go and fight for the life of the child so long as they think that the child will be born into conditions that will allow it to live. I think denying a person life, 30 years of life because you think that 15 years in their life or 20 years in their life with you is going to be shit is a horribly selfish reason because you want to be idolized as a parent. You want to deny somebody life. You're willing to kill your child should their life not turn out right. Because again, what you're saying is that the children that you do have to have a perfect life or have to have things sustained to them, provided for them everything in order for them to live. So if they have a year where you're in debt or your family's struggling or you can't provide for your family, are you saying that they're better off dead? That you should have just killed your children? Then why do we throw people in prison for that? Why do we call it murder? Yeah, sure. Scaling time and whatever, blah, 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 blah. You can dismiss it as you wish, but to me, that's the kind of thing that started weighing on my heart was, do I deny this thing life? And so that's why I chose celibacy in a lot of occasions. I haven't been perfect. I'm still not perfect. That's why, again, whether you're homosexual or heterosexual, the act of sex is the act of sex. So to be homosexual and practicing is the sin. To have the attraction to men is what you give up to God. There's a separation. The act of sex and the desire to have sex, you deny. You suppress that and you try to resist it. Not because you're trying to be perfect, not because you're trying to be whole, but because you're trying to give yourself time and you're not trying to give yourself over to your flesh and to your baser instincts. That's not saying that you're suddenly going to then not be attracted to men. No, you might always have a preference to be around men and to build relationships with men because God may want you to educate and build men up in the ways of God. He may not want you to focus on women and having sex with women and having children because he may want you to only devote yourself to helping grow men. Maybe perhaps this is why the Catholic Church is full of so many homosexual men. But then again, because they haven't reconciled this in themselves, they instead do pedestry all over the place. And they then horribly traumatize people and then indoctrinate them into that lifestyle. Again, if you look at the Catholic Church and pedestry and really the homosexuality surrounding Christianity in general, one could say that Men need to deal with their emasculation and effeminacy issues, but also they need to learn to reconcile their latent homosexual urges with what God wants you to do, which is to build up your fellow man, to sharpen your fellow man, not rub your sword with him in the physical dick sense, but rub swords with him literally in the metaphorical metal to metal sense, to sharpen metal to make each other ready to fight the enemy in your country, in your cities, in your lives, and in relationships, and in yourselves. So to commit to sex is to then squander that. It's the same thing as building a relationship with your girlfriend. Till she's your wife, then you should not have sex with her. Now, where I stand with the whole legalizing homosexual marriage, now I'm against it in the sense that it has been done, and I see that it has not stopped anything, it's made things worse. But the reason why I was supportive of it in the beginning and why I would be supportive of it if it was ever banned again is in the sense that I would want marriage to be focused around allowing the act of making two people each other's partners for life, not to make their lifestyle more valid, not to make their abuses of each other more valid, not to make their abuses of themselves more valid, not to make their abuse of God more valid, but they love God. They realize, okay, look, I can't deal with this stuff, but hey, let's go ahead and move forward. Now, personally, I believe that we will all fall short, that we all do fall short, and that no matter how hard we try, we will always fall short. We are not Christ. That does not mean we don't try. So I believe that the proper way for somebody who is homosexual or bisexual to be is to find a partner who they feel comfortable with, who they feel like God's leading them to be with. And if God does not stop them from being together, then fine. I guess get it honored, at least as close to God as you can with people who feel comfortable with it, and then live honorably by your vows. Then you can have sex occasionally. But personally, for me, I believe that if you're not trying to have sex to reproduce, then there's no reason to have it. That doesn't mean you deny sex just to deny sex. The Bible even says it itself that you don't. Wives, do not deny your husband long because that would lead him to cheat on you. And husbands, don't deny your wives, they'll cheat on you. So you don't deny your spouse sex or intimacy or relationships. And I'm not saying that, again, I think that there's more to life than shoving your dick in your wife's pussy or in her butt. Thank goodness I said this wasn't for kids. Again, it's great. It feels cool. But again, it doesn't, that in and of itself doesn't make a relationship. It's just a way of expressing some aspect of it, but it's not everything. And so when we prioritize needing to have sex or needing to test our partners or needing to be comfortable with that or needing to express that part of ourselves, you're really putting your body and your flesh in the world first before God. To deny that is better, even in a relationship. Now, that's not saying that if you're married and stuff like that, that you shouldn't deny each other. But again, it then makes at least that act of sin, because again, we're all conceived in sin. God knits us together in heaven without sin. He puts us into this earth through sin, through the taking on of the curses of Adam and Eve. So when we are born, we have sin etched into us and woven into us just as much we have divinity and godliness woven into us. We're as much of a blank slate as we can be when we're born. We're not evil when we're born. We're not purely good. We are man. We are those ready to strive with God. So I think that to be homosexual or bisexual or heterosexual and having sex with any partner that you have and to be seeking partners to satisfy your sexual urges is wrong. To be homosexual, bisexual, or heterosexual, to find a partner and to try to be as honorable to them and to try to avoid expressing only lustful or sexual urges on them, and to only have sex when you guys feel a close, almost divine intimacy with each other in a sense of, I am one with you, we are one in flesh, and we have given ourselves up to God, I think that that's when you guys should have sex. There. Beyond that, I think that the issue is that not that sexuality should be legislated by law. No, no, no. I think that if I were to have a Christian nation, homosexuality wouldn't be banned. It would just be codified as okay, we just don't want people to have sex out of wedlock. Boom. That hits everybody. And once you're in a relationship, don't go around sleeping with other people. Boom. Problem solved. When it comes to the issues of adoption and things like that, I'd leave it on a state by state basis. Which state believes is the most beneficial to forming pure bonds. I think that should be left up to the people, and then again, that leads them up to the relationship with how they believe God works in a family and what they believe God needs in a family in order for a family to be a family. So again, I think there's evidence in either direction. As a conservative, I bend towards one direction, but in terms of legislative and policy changes, that's how I view it. Everything else would just be social activism trying to push agenda or pushing things through stories or through trying to talk to people on the streets. I wouldn't want to legislate those things, and you shouldn't any more than I think marriage should be legislated. So again, I think the fact that we have to get a marriage license is wrong to a certain extent, but I also understand that it's probably right to be able to say, hey, legally, even to the state, I am this person's partner. And again, I think that that's more important than the idea of stopping people from banging a guy or even getting people from stopping the bang in general. The idea is you want people to bang into monogamous relationships. So monogamy is the key. Monogamy reduces the rejection of God that comes from your sin. Again, that doesn't make your sin right. But again, if you're going to be imperfect, try to be as least imperfect as freaking possible so that you could be as close to God as possible and give more of yourself to Him. If He leads you the rest of the way, then thank God. If He doesn't, then that's up to Him and you in your relationships. Some people are called to go a certain distance, other people are called to go further. For me, I was called to come completely out of that life and those urges and those desires, and that's why I think the Lord kept me from being able to be fully immersed into them. But I know other people haven't, and I don't judge you people for it. When I say that I'm against homosexuality, it's not so much that I'm against you. I'm against the idea that we need to codify and say that this is just acceptable. Let's not think about it. It's just something we should hand wave and just let happen. I think that that's wrong, and we need to really revisit how we're introducing homosexuality and bisexuality into our culture and why we're doing it and under what justifications we're honoring this in a way. Because there are other cultures that do not do what we do in our pride festivals. And honestly, I respect them more than I respect the American Pride Festival and British Pride Festivals. What we do in the Western culture with homosexuality and bisexuality, I think, is disgusting compared to what countries like Japan will do, where it's very respectful. It's very respectful to the relationship between the bisexual and homosexual partnership. When it comes to transgenderism, the Bible says that it's not right for a man to cross dress and for a woman to cross dress. Yes, and I think that biblically that's right. I think that it's right for one to learn to reconcile themselves and not surgically alter themselves. But again, if you're not Christian, I don't judge you if you end up doing it. And I know people who have even become eunuchs, regardless if they decided not to transition or not. And I don't judge them for it. I think that God leads you to do certain things, but also I think that sometimes the world leads you to do things that you lead yourself to do things because you just can't give certain things up to God. And sometimes we'd rather do what we want or what we think is right in order to make us feel whole rather than give that completely to God and just deal with the crap that's just around us. I don't always surrender everything to God, and at times I've done great things that I think God has told me not to do. So again, I can't judge you either way or not and say that God didn't tell you what or not. All I can say is that as a grand scheme for the culture, I don't think it's healthy for us to just say that in every instance this is completely fine and not to be thought about. That's all. I'm not trying to hate anybody or have any hate. It's nothing like that. I've experienced so much hatred in my life that I almost gave in to become like you. I realized that was a lie and that that was hurting me, and it made me almost commit myself to a life that wasn't who I was supposed to be, but also it robbed me of a chance to fully accept who I was born to be. I will never be the daughter my parents wanted me to be. I will never be the strong, cool guy that people thought I could be because of my brothers. I am me. I deserve the full chance to be me, whether I have a penis or not. That matters more than being satisfied by wearing a dress and having long hair. Trust me, it feels really good to wear a wig sometimes. The dress a certain way. Just being honest. And that's the thing. Not everybody's honest, but if you're calling for honesty, well, I'm being honest and I still don't stand for it. Make me a hypocrite or not, I'm just being honest. I don't see anything good from it because I haven't seen anything good come from me embracing it. And I haven't honestly seen good from the people around me. I go to San Francisco all the time. I don't see anything healthy in the homosexual and bisexual relationships I see. In fact, if anything, I see cheating more often, less respect for what sex means, less respect for partnership, more of a willingness to abuse your body before the public and before each other. Whatever. That's your forte. I want to be respected by my partner. I want my partner to respect themselves. I want them to respect what we mean to each other. And I want them to respect what our children mean to us and what a family means to us because I've been around a family that cheats on each other and betrays each other. And so to me, just hand waving it and learning to accept it is not, yeah, I go. I can't accept that. To be okay with having a pansexual or open relationships, I can't be a part of that because it hurt me too much. Too much of me was hurt by these things. That's why I can't accept that lifestyle and why I will never be able to endorse that for people because I have never seen it work out in the long term. Unless you sacrifice a part of your identity to be something that is not normal. Who am I to say is normal, right? But then again, I think what is normal is what you naturally are when you're born, what you naturally develop into. If you have to alter yourself with chemicals or surgery, then that's not you being you. So if you could be feminine while still holding this skin like I try to be, that's fine. Power to you. But if you think in order to be feminine you have to have boobs and a fucking big ass, then I think you're wrong. If you have to chop off your dick in order to be a woman, then I think you're wrong. Well, honestly, I'm praying for you and I'll help you. And I'll be there for you before and after. But that's not what I think should be done just to little girls and boys everywhere. I think that's something that has to be decided once you're over 18, over 21, really. Once your brain is finished forming and the hormones aren't going to completely wreck your ability to let your brain finish developing. Because if you study out the brain develops, you're older than 25. If you're older than 25, I think that's when you should transition. I think up until then, cross dressing is fine. If I'm going to make rules for the secular world or for the atheist world or for the non Christian world, then that's what I would say. I just don't want you to chop off your body parts until you're old enough and finished developing. The same thing I want for my animals. So again, this isn't me being inconsistent. I actually am against neutering animals to a certain extent. I believe that your animals should be kept inside until they're sexually matured. Then you should neuter and spade them. Then they should be allowed outside. Then the animal has bonded with your family and knows where it lives. It's been fully developed, and you have raised it its entire life. So it knows who its home is, who its owner is, and it's reached full intellectual and physical maturity. And emotional maturity too, because it's grown up with a family. It's not going from one culture and creature and lifestyle to going back to being screamed at every time it pisses on the couch. So when it goes outside and it's fully developed, it makes healthier decisions. And I've seen the evidence of that. The only time I've seen that go wrong is because I let my cat out during freaking fireworks like an asshole because I was being a dick. I regret that. But I've seen that it benefits them. You have to reach full maturity before you make these decisions that affect your ability to fully develop mentally. Chopping off your balls does that. Wrecking your uterus does that. That's why I'm against birth control to a certain degree. I believe that celibacy is better than birth control because I believe that for girls to modify their biology, even though it sucks to go for your period, and I know I don't have the right to judge because I'm a male and da 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 da. Nobody says that when we're about to go to war, and my ass has to fucking sign up for the damn draft, and I did join the military. And I was expected to probably be willing to die should we need to. And I probably would have been forced to die first before allowing somebody else to die. And they've proven in studies that female members inside military units who are in there, and if they get shot, alter the makeup of that unit because they're more likely to actually get shot just running out enemy fire. They'll do that already. It's not like men don't already do that, but they found that there's certain lengths that people go through. For women, that's just instinctual. It's biological for us to help women because we know that they're different. We know that they provide life, and to secure the life of a woman means that you provided a life for a whole nation through that one womb. That's the power you guys hold. Each and every single female has the ability to produce a nation, to nurture a nation. Every single man has the ability to replenish a nation. You only need one man to replenish a nation. You only need one woman to raise a nation, to create a nation. Because ultimately, it's what she does that will really define how the child grows up and treats the women forever. Will it just be a group of people just constantly replenishing stock, treating the sex and relationships as just whatever? Or are they going to build strong monogamous relationships that are K oriented and build a better society through natural selection and through societal selection? So these are the economies we have to address as we move into the future and try to develop ourselves. Because again, even though we have technology, even though we could alter ourselves to get these things accomplished and work, for people who preach evolution, who preach needing to be part of nature, why is it that you guys consistently try to deny and alter nature for yourselves, for this current society, but you don't want to actually admit to it? To me, accepting what you are biologically is a part of being eco-friendly. It is a part of rejecting the greater society. It is a part of rejecting patriarchy. Because patriarchy tells you to be less of a man, be less of a woman, be less biologically whole. This is why I'm for body positivity. Be hairy if you want to be hairy. Do what you want to freaking do. But just be who you are and who you were born to be. Girls, be hairy if you want to freaking be. Don't shave your legs if you don't want to shave your legs. Don't shave your armpits if you don't want to shave your armpits. If that's somebody who loves you, free that. Now, don't be arrogant about it. If it is healthier for you to do it, then do it. Shave occasionally, but I'm not saying to be obsessive about it. Shave once a damn month rather than every damn week or 2 weeks. Use clippers rather than a razor. Because personally, that's all I need is a clippers. And you'll probably be fine with most men. My hair don't grow back that fast. I only need to use freaking clippers if I really want to be freaking hair free once a month. I just happen to like being hairy. I'll date a girl if she's hairy or not. I don't give a crap. Is her heart pure? Does she love me? Does she love her family? I don't think my child's going to care if she's a hairy person down there or not. If I prefer for her not to be hairy occasionally, I'll just be like, honey, to be honest, too much Wookiee is too much Wookiee. I don't know what's too much Wookiee for you, but for me, that's just a little bit too much Wookiee because it gets in my mouth and I don't really want to get down there. But I really do want to go down there because I think that'll make you happy or something like that. I think this is some kids. Again, these are things that you figure out with your relationship. But trying to sideswipe it by never committing or to make commitment about whatever you feel in a subjective manner or in emotional means, that's not right. So I guess really what I'm trying to say is just give it to God. Let Him define who your identity is. And pray always. And look to the Word of God. Look to the Word of God even though you have doubts. Look to the Word of God even though you think that it judges you or accuses you. Fight through the accusations because God loves you. He is not the accuser. The accuser's in you. You are the accuser of your brother and of yourself. It's not God, it's you. Love y'all.